Module 3 Dynamics of Science, Technology, and Society. In today's video presentation, we are going to talk about three topics: health, wellness, and aesthetics, sports and recreation, and religion. This is presented by the group SM5. Let's start off with health, wellness, and aesthetics.
Hello, my name is Nica Bonabon, and today I'll be talking about health and how science and technology are important, especially in the field of health. Health is defined by World Health Organization as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, how is it related to science? According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, science is the greatest collective endeavor. It contributes to ensuring a longer and healthier life, monitors our health, provides medicine to cure our diseases, and alleviates aches and pains. Now, let's have a brief history. From historical times to the present, the history of medicine demonstrates how society's approaches to illness and disease have evolved. Mankind began the evolution of medicine and the seek for the causes of diseases and their cures. However, it was a long process, with different milieux state of medicine. The 18th century had seen the continuation of the search for disease etiology. The 18th century, one of the most notable views is when John Brown of Edinburgh proposed a hypothesis, and it stated that diseases are classified into two categories. The first is an asthenic or a strong disease, while the second is the asthenic or weak disease. He also felt that there are two types of treatments: the sedative treatments and the stimulant treatments. In the field of surgery, the famous works of Anatomy and Physiology by John Hunter and his brother William Hunter gave birth to the concept of surgical pathology. William became interested in obstetrics, and as a result of his efforts, male obstetricians were involved in assisting women during childbirth. Vaccination came to be advanced in this period. In England, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu started the practice. They practiced on smallpox victims, and the disease, which was severely disfiguring many people, was somewhat lessened. Edward Jenner, a student of John Hunter, used cowpox material for inoculation. He elevated this to a whole new level. Also, in the 18th century, public health and hygiene were also given a serious look. It was during the century that the issue of health regulation became popular, as well as the concept of keeping popular statistics. Philippe Pinel in Paris raised awareness of the health conditions of the mental ill to another level. He freed them from the chains, effectively putting an end to the old concept that their lunacy was caused by demonic possession. Medical education. During this time, there was a rise in the number of medical schools. Padua Medical School was one of the largest in history. However, the one created in Leiden grew to compete it throughout this time period. It drew a larger number of health experts from throughout the world. John Monro, a military surgeon, was one of the students, and he believed that his town of Edinburgh needed such a school. In the past, very lengthy prescription and high doses were common. But in the 18th century, Samuel Hahnemann of Leipzig changed everything. He devised a system in which small dosages of medication were supplied on a regular basis, with the hope that it would function in the same manner that disease spreads in the patient's body. 19th century. The 19th century is a rise of modern medicine. The practice of medicine has evolved in response to significant developments in science and novel approaches by physicians. In order to diagnose patients, hospital doctors conducted a far more rigorous investigation of their symptoms. Anesthesia and the development of both antiseptic and aseptic operating theaters were among the more potent new procedures. Certain endemic infectious diseases have effective cures. However, the decline in many of the most lethal diseases was due to improvements in public health and nutrition than the advances in medicine. In addition, medicine was revolutionized in the 19th century and beyond by advances in chemistry, laboratory techniques, and equipment. The ABO blood group system was discovered in 1901, whereas the rhesus blood group system was developed in 1937, allowing for easier blood transfer. Also, during the 19th century, large-scale wars were accompanied by the medics and the mobile hospital units that developed new ways for mending huge injuries and controlling infections widespread on battlefields. Wherein, during the Mexican Revolution, General Pancho Villa organized hospital trains for wounded soldiers. Also, during the Spanish Civil War, Canadian physician Norman Whitton devised a mobile blood transfusion service for the frontline operations. Lastly, during the Second World War, Alexis Carrel and Henry Dakin developed the Carrel-Dakin method of treating wounds with an irrigation Dakin solution, a germicide which helped prevent gangrene. In 1948, the World Health Organization was established as a United Nations agency to improve world health. With the passing years, science and the help of technology gradually eradicating disease and illnesses. As a result, life expectancy in most of the world has increased since then, reaching over 67 years in 2010 and exceeding 80 years in some countries. Infectious disease eradication is a global endeavor, and the various new vaccinations has been produced in the post-war years to combat infections such as measles, mumps, various strains of influenza, and human papillomavirus. In addition, smallpox was finally eradicated in the 1970s with a long-known vaccine, while rinderpest was exterminated in 2011. Polio is gradually being eradicated also. In addition, as infectious diseases has grown less fatal and cancers and cardiovascular diseases are now the leading causes of death in affluent countries. These disorders have gained more focus in medical research. Tobacco smoking was first studied as a cause of lung cancer in the 1920s. Although it was not extensively supported by the publications until the 1950s. Cancer treatment has been developed with radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and surgical oncology. Since the 1970s, oral rehydration therapy has been widely utilized to treat cholera and other diarrhea-causing infections. Also, T-X-ray imaging was the first type of medical imaging, and later, ultrasonic imaging, CT scanning, MR scanning, and other imaging technologies became accessible. And now that we are in the pandemic, according to the experts, international cooperation on the frontiers of science, technology, and innovation can accelerate sustainable development progress following the COVID-19 issue. The coronavirus pandemic has prompted leaders, policymakers, and other ordinary citizens to rethink what constitute healthy and resilient societies. The outbreak of COVID-19, scientists from various countries have generally collaborated on the concept of open science, in which knowledge, methods, data, and proof are openly published and accessible to all. Collaborative open scientific arrangements, particularly the mapping of the virus genome, aided the creation of COVID-19 vaccines such as AstraZeneca, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, Sinovac, Johnson & Johnson, and many others across several countries. Now, we live in an age in which the power of science and technology become evident every day. Science and technology are valued by society because the application of scientific and technological knowledge helps to satisfy many basic human needs and improve living standards. Indeed, science and technology play critical roles in development in many aspects, particularly in health. Next is Rica Armogela. She will be discussing about the wellness and aesthetic.
This is the continuation of what Ms. Bonabon had reported, wellness and aesthetics. A brief ancient history of wellness. Wellness is a modern word with ancient root. The key tenets of wellness as both preventive and holistic can be traced back to ancient civilizations from the east including India and China to the west such as Greece and Rome. In 19th century, Europe and United States with variety of intellectual, religious, and medical movement developed in parallel with conventional medicine, as it focused on holistic and natural approaches, self-healing and preventive care, thus provided a firm foundation for wellness today. So what we can see in the illustration is the evolution of wellness. It is said that Indian Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and ancient Rome and Greece put the foundation for today's medicine and often to the mentioned ideal of Kalokagatya. This traditional system had many aspects in common. So let's define wellness. According to Global Wellness Institute, wellness as the active pursuit or activities, choices, and lifestyles lead to a state of holistic health. There are two important aspects to this definition. First, wellness is not a passive or static state but rather an active pursuit that is associated with intentions, choices, and actions as we work toward an optimal state of health and well-being. Second, wellness is linked to holistic health, that is, it extends beyond physical health and incorporates many different dimensions that should work in harmony. There are 6 to 9 dimensions of wellness. The first one is physical, a healthy body through exercise, nutrition, sleep, and etc. The second, mental, engagement with the world through learning, problem solving, creativity, and etc. Emotional, being in touch with, aware of, accepting of, and able to express one's feelings and those of others. Spiritual, our search for meaning and purpose in human existence. Social, connecting with, interacting with, and contributing to other people and our communities. Environmental, a healthy physical environment free of hazards, awareness of the role we play in bettering rather than denigrating the natural environment. Cultural, financial, and vocational. What is wellness and well-being and happiness? Both are multidimensional, dynamic, subjective, and personal, subject to historical and cultural differences and context. Wellness relates to intention, action, and activities, has a prominent physical dimension. Consumers associate with a healthy lifestyle, choices, and market offerings. Common usage is business or private industry context, example, wellness sector. Useful concept for measuring industry, while well-being and happiness, perception of a state of being, has a prominent mental or emotional dimension. Citizens associate with a feeling of satisfaction and sense of fulfillment. Common usage in policy or government context, example, well-being budgeting. There are 5 ancient approaches to wellness that still apply today. They are earthing, forest bathing, public bathhouse, reflexology, and herbal remedies. And we can see some of the examples of wellness activities. So what was science behind wellness? The role of science are most often seen on programs held by the government and the specific institution, such as wellness programs. The benefit of it: improve employee health behaviors, reduce elevated health risk, reduce healthcare costs, improve productivity, decrease absenteeism, help improve employee recruitment and retention, build and help sustain high employee morale. Let's proceed the history of aesthetics. In 18th century, aesthetics is considered a discipline originated in Germany. There are 3 types of theories about the origin of beauty. First is the proportion, second, functionality, and the third is form. In proportion, the most standard term for denoting this theory is symmetria, meaning not bilateral symmetry, but good appropriate for fitting proportionality. We have here Pythagorean, Plato, and Aristotle. In functionality, the theory of functional beauty is the idea that beauty originates in an object when the object performs its functions, achieves its end, or fits its purpose, especially when it is done particularly well, that is, excelling at the task of achieving that end. While form, this is Plato's best-known arguments. The theory of forms has much bearing on his aesthetics in a number of ways. The theory posits that in corporeal, changing ideal paradigms, forms are universal and play an important causal role in the world generation. Much of the history of more recent thinking about the concept of the aesthetic can be seen as the history of the development of the immediacy and disinterest thesis. Immediacy. Rationalism about beauty is viewed that judgment of beauty or judgment of reasons. Example that we judge things to be beautiful by reasoning it out. Where reasoning is out typically involves inferring from principle or applying concepts. Disinterest. The 18th century view that judgment of virtue or judgment of taste highlights a difference between the 18th century concept of taste and our concept of aesthetic. Since for us, the concepts aesthetic and moral tend oppose one another, such as the judgment falling under one typically precludes its falling under the other. Defining further aesthetics. Aesthetics, also spelled aesthetic, the philosophical study of beauty and taste. It is closely related to the philosophy of art, which is concerned with the nature of art and the concepts in terms of which individual works of art are interpreted and evaluated. Aesthetics is the branch of philosophy concerned with the nature and the appreciation of art, beauty, and good taste. It has also been defined as critical reflection on art, culture, and nature. The word aesthetics derived from the Greek aesthetikos, meaning of sense perception. Along with ethics, aesthetics is part of axiology, the study of values and value of judgment. The value of aesthetics in science. Scientists often use aesthetic values in the evaluation and choice of theories. Aesthetic values are not only regarded as leading to practically more useful theories, but are often taken to be indicators of the truth of a theory. Some of the papers explores what aesthetic considerations influence scientists' reasoning, how such aesthetic values relate to the utility of the scientific theory, and how one can justify the epistemic rule for such values. Examines ways in which the link between beauty and truth can be defended, and the challenges facing such accounts, and explores alternative epistemic rules for aesthetic values in scientific practice.
So that was it for health, wellness, and aesthetics. Let's proceed to the next topic, sports and recreation, prepared by Joshua Irinco and Lynyl Ariadne Omictin. Sports and recreation can be defined as the vast array of activities that people pursue in their leisure time. These include attending sporting and cultural events, participating in sport and physical recreational activities, involvement in hobbies, watching television or videos, listening to music, reading, socializing, and taking holidays. Sports refer to any type of organized physical activity. Recreation refers to all activities that people choose to do to refresh their bodies and minds during their leisure time. Leisure refers to the free time that people spend away from their everyday responsibilities like work, school, or household responsibilities, etc. Let's talk about a brief history of sports and recreation. Origin of games and sports. In primitive societies, popular games were usually vestiges of warfare, practiced as a form of sport. Musical instruments were created more for use in religious rituals. When an activity is no longer useful in its original form, for example, archery for hunting, it became a sport offering individuals or groups the opportunity to prove physical skill and strategy. As far back as the beginnings of sport, it was related to military training. For example, competition was used as a means to determine whether individuals were fit and useful for service. Team sports were used to train and to prove the capability to fight in the military and also to work together as a team. Ancient Egyptian. The ancient Egyptians led a colorful and pleasant life. They engaged in many sports as part of their education and recreation, and these include wrestling, weightlifting, long jump, swimming, rowing, archery, fishing, athletics, and ball games. Music, drama, and dance were forms of religious worship as well as social entertainment. This civilization, which lasted from about 5000 BC well into the Roman era, was richly recorded in painting, statuary, and hieroglyphic records. Ancient Greece. It was predictably in Greece that sports were first instituted formally, with the first Olympic Games recorded in 776 BCE in Olympia, where they celebrated until 393 CE. These games took place every 4 years, or Olympiad, the unit of time in historical chronologies. Initially a single sprinting event, the Olympics gradually expanded to include several foot races, run in the nude or in armor, boxing, wrestling, pancration, which is a combination of boxing and wrestling, chariot racing, long jump, javelin throw, and discus throw. During the celebration of the Games, an Olympic truce was enacted so that athletes could travel from their countries to the Games in safety. The prizes for the victors were wreaths of laurel leaves. Other important sporting events in ancient Greece included the Isthmian Games, the Nemean Games, and the Pythian Games. Together with the Olympics, these were the most prestigious games and formed the Pan-Hellenic Games. Some games, for example, the Panathenaea of Athens, included musical, reading, and other non-athletic contests in addition to regular sports events. The Heraean Games, held in Olympia as early as the 6th century BCE, were the first recorded sporting competition for women. Greek philosophy of recreation and leisure. The Athenian philosophers believed strongly in the unity of mind and body and in the strong relationship of all forms of human qualities and skills. They felt that play activity was essential to the healthy physical and social growth of children. Plato believed that education should be compulsory and should provide natural modes of amusement for children. Ancient Rome. The Roman citizen was required to defend its society and fight in its wars, whether he came from a privileged class or not. Citizens participated in sports and gymnastics to keep the body strong and the spirit courageous. Young boys were taught various sports and exercises like running and jumping, sword and spear play, wrestling, swimming, and horseback riding, all in preparation for joining the war or becoming gladiators. The Roman Colosseum is the monument of all the achievements of ancient Rome. It was designed to fit almost 75,000 people and was built primarily for hosting gladiator games. These games are called Monera, which is the battle between two men, and the Venationes, battle between men and animals. These animals, usually lions, are shipped from Africa. And the gladiators were free Romans, slaves, condemned criminals, Christians, or prisoners of war. In case the gladiator won several fights, he had the right to ask the emperor for his liberty. As a sign of the accepted request, the fighter would get a wooden sword, which represented his liberty and a promise that he would never have to fight again. The primary purpose of the Colosseum was to satisfy the public enthusiasm for games and spectacles. It was really brutal, their form of entertainment. Both animals and humans were maimed and butchered in cruel and horrible ways. Spectacles were often lewd and obscene, leading to mass debauchery, corruption, and perversion that profoundly weakened the Roman state. That was a brief history of sports and recreation, and long since then, sports and recreation had gone through changes, modifications, and improvements until they became what they are today. So, What are today's sports activities? We have some of our most popular sports like volleyball, athletics, tennis, soccer, basketball, and badminton. We also have boxing, acrobatics, swimming, and archery. All these sports take so much physical strength and skill. But there are also sports for people with limited physical abilities or who just simply prefer to play using their minds. These games are called intellectual games or mind sports, and it includes chess, Scrabble, checkers, and card games. But what's really amazing are the sports that even people with disabilities can partake in, like wheelchair marathon or wheelchair basketball, to name a few. There is literally a sport for everyone. Now let's talk about some of the recreational activities that we can do. Again, these are all the activities that are done during leisure time. Outdoor recreational activities include camping, walking, fishing, Zumba, as well as yoga, going to the gym. Then we also have biking and diving. Recreational activities also include social activities like picnic and partying, and doing arts and crafts like painting or sculpting. So is theater acting, singing, and dancing. To simply put, any type of hobby you love to do in your spare time is a recreational activity. Any type of plans that you might have for the weekend, as long as it involves physical activity and is to your enjoyment, is a recreational activity. Now let's talk about the benefits. Participating in sports and recreational activities promotes health and prevents disease. It prevents the development of chronic diseases like heart disease and cancer. It increases fitness, relieves stress, improves emotional well-being and mental health. Skills development. It improves physical and social skills, encourages social interaction, and improves concentration and learning. Reduction of stigma and social inclusion. There is literally a sport and a recreational activity for everyone. Recreation and sports activities are a powerful, low-cost means to foster greater inclusion of people with disabilities. They bring people of all ages and abilities together for enjoyment and provide people with disabilities the opportunity to demonstrate their strengths and abilities and promote a positive image of disability. International peace and development. Sport is a universal language that can be used as a powerful tool to promote peace, tolerance, and understanding by bringing people together across boundaries, cultures, and religions. Participating in sports and recreational activities has a lot to do with empowerment. It enhances self-esteem, increases personal confidence and self-awareness, thus improving the quality of life. Physical contests and recreational games have long played a part in human society. In both team and solo sports, the human body has been pushed to its limits in the name of improving athletic performance and to break record upon record. The ancient Olympic Games are an early example of the contests in which humans have engaged to showcase physical prowess. In modern times, sports and games have evolved into a lucrative and competitive industry, while other leisure activities, such as card and video games, can be competitive or can just be a way to unwind or socialize. And for our last topic, we have religion, to be presented by Craig Desabille.
Religion. There is not a single person on earth who isn't aware of at least the fundamental ideas of religion. But for educational reasons, let us try to define it more clearly. Religion refers to a systematic set of beliefs, behaviors, practices, and worldviews, often in the worship of a divine being or esoteric concept. These are characterized by their prominent spiritual elements, their strong connection to human values and morals, and widespread belief in the supernatural. Oftentimes, religious lore incorporates stories that explain various phenomena in accordance with their core beliefs, such as the origin and nature of the world, along with humanity itself. A popular example would be the Christian God's 7-day creation of the earth. There are three types of religions: monotheistic, polytheistic, and animistic. Monotheistic religion refers to the worship of only one God. Examples include all three of the Abrahamic faiths: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Polytheistic religion refers to the worship of multiple gods, like in Hinduism with its literal millions. Prior to the popularization of the Abrahamic faiths, polytheism was the most popular type of religion, notable for the Hellenic or ancient Greek and Kemetic or ancient Egyptian pantheons. And finally, animistic religions refer to the belief in the inherent divinity of natural objects and phenomena, such as the weather, rivers, mountains, forests, and more. This is regarded as the traditional form of religion common among the beliefs of each. The largest religions are Christianity with 2.3 billion, Islam with 1.9 billion, Hinduism with 1.3 billion, and Buddhism with 500 million. For their most recognizable iconographies, Christianity has the Christian cross for Jesus Christ's crucifixion, Islam has the crescent moon and star that signifies the greatness of Allah, Hinduism has the Om symbol that represents the sacred sound of the universe, and Buddhism has the Dharma chakra that represents the eightfold path to reach enlightenment. Of course, religion's popularity among the masses is not without any due benefits. Various religions are prominent ethical frameworks for individuals and entire societies. Religion can consolidate a sense of brotherhood and togetherness among the faithful, inducing cooperation among the masses. It offers a sense of purpose, the capacity to find some greater meaning in your life. The permeating essence of religion has also entrenched itself in society and culture, contributing much of its theological qualities to the distinct identity of a people. And finally, religious beliefs can serve as powerful supporters of inner strength and mental stability, providing great comfort to the fragile mind and soul. Here are examples of religious worship from different faiths. In regards to the relationship between science and religion, many would consider the two concepts to be direct opposites, incompatible by virtue of the vast difference in their general approach to human existence. However, that perspective is not necessarily true or carried by everyone. While components of science and religion have been known to clash, for example the Big Bang Theory and creationism, there are existing views that interpret the relationship in more positive terms. Some would view it as tolerable independence, wherein one deals with aspects of human experience that other does not need to, questioning the need to find conflict between the two. Others would cite historical accounts in which the two would coexist and interact in a productive manner, such as in the Islamic Golden Age, in which various scientific and academic disciplines flourished due to religious outlook on knowledge and wisdom. Regardless of the variation, all of these alternative viewpoints share the same idea: the belief that science and religion's relationship is inherently hostile and incompatible might be obsolete.